discuss just when seasons are difficult. So today we're going to have a time of sharing, and then at the end, we're going to have some time in prayer. And at the very end of class, we will do our typical prayer with a prayer sheet. So if you have other prayer requests to share, make sure to write those down on the sheet. But we wanted today, both in class and in service today, we're going to be remembering John Williams. And all of us are grieving and shocked, have a lot more questions than answers. But we believe in community and in the power of prayer and in the comfort that God offers us. So that's why we're here today. So I wanted to start off our time today. One of my favorite things that has been done for me in the past when I've lost people who are really meaningful to me was the opportunity to share memories. There's a saying that my grandmother used to say that when we share memories, we keep people alive. And I've always loved that quote. That's been meaningful to me. So I wanted to start today and ask you to share a memory or a story. And here's the prompt. How did you experience or know God because of John? How did you experience or know God because of John? So this is going to be informal, just sharing of memories. I also want to say at any point, we all grieve in different ways and need different things. If you want to step outside this way or that way, you don't have to go into the cult. But please feel free. If you want to grab someone to go with you, please feel free. But this space is open however you need it today. So feel free to be however you need to be in the space. Yes.
So how we experience God?
How did you experience? No. How did you experience or know God through John?
Go through John.
It's a good clarification. Mm-hmm. So any kind of memory or yes.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to just brag on John for this, so I'm very grateful. But Rosemary too, by the way. John and Rosemary approached Deborah and myself one Sunday morning, and they said, Robert, you and Deborah, we want you to have a nice time. We want you to stay at our place in Martha's Vineyards. And this place, by the way, is really nice. Other people have gone here to the church too, like Dale and Debbie. But I was so happy about that. And my sister, who we funeralized here, her name is Janice, which we call it. She passed away, of course, of breast cancer. And at the time, Janice was still alive, and she was going through the ordeal with cancer. And Deborah and I wanted to do something like kind of to make her happy. And I kind of like said, I kind of mentioned to John, is it okay if my sister comes along? And he, of course, said, sure. And what really impressed me was this. He handed me $250. And I went like, what? You know, you let me have this nice, beautiful home for several days. I mean, what are you giving me money for? He said, well, I just don't want you to have to incur you have the gas expense, of course, but I don't want you to incur the expense for the, what do you call it?
Ferry.
The ferry to go over to the island with your car and yourselves. So I'm taking care of this for you. I just like to say that story. It just shows the thing he said about God. God is generous. I think John Williams and Rosemary are very generous, and I'm very thankful for that experience. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Sheldon.
Just to echo what Robert's saying, it's I just appreciate John and Rosemary's generosity. I think I experienced God's love, God's grace through their generosity, their ability to like make me feel very welcome here at church. We also visited their home in Martha's Vineyard, and they made us feel like so much a part of the family there. We were there to take us around, they introduced us to their friends who went to church with them there. And we just really appreciate them just sharing their blessings with us. as a couple, and we had conversations about the church and about careers and things like that, and I miss that. I appreciate it. I really miss that as well.
Yeah, Valerie.
Yeah, so obviously, everyone who knows John and Rosemary experienced God through them in terms of love and generosity. So I'm going to share a couple of other memories about John. One is God has a plan, and God is very strategic in his plan. And when you read the Bible, you see different things unfolding, and John is a planner, and everything is very thought out. And when we moved into our current home, he was so helpful in terms of, we were doing a renovation to our bedroom, which some of you here saw tonight. And he was like, you gotta get a Toto toilet, and you have a Toto toilet, and this is how he designed the closet. And he was even going to, how he and Sheldon were going to put the closet together, but our contractor, he had a day and he was like, I'll just do it. But everything, he took us to look at bathroom tiles and things. Remember, we went to some stores just to get an idea, because I was like, had no idea. So that is of course, there's also love and generosity in that, but it shows his planning and strategic mind, and his background, what he did for a living. And the other is, I feel it's important to share the most recent memory, which is, we had the privilege 2 weeks ago from yesterday to have dinner with John and Rosemary in their home. And one of the things I think of with God, we rejoice and we raise our voice in song. And John had the best playlist on. He kept those tunes coming the whole time we were there. And there were times, even when we were eating dinner, I looked like I couldn't sit still, like I had to start moving in my chair. So those are I could share, we spend a lot of time with them, and so I could share many more, but I want to give other people the opportunity to share.
Guy, real quick before you go, for those who are joining us online, we're sharing memories about how we have known and experienced God through John and John and Rosemary, because they're always together. So if you want to share a story, feel free to, I think, raise your hand. Is that the best thing on the thing? And then we'll call you. But okay, Guy, and then
if anyone has ever been to John's house, John hosts you to dinner. John is probably one of the most gracious hosts you can that can host you. When you're in John's presence, when he invites you to his home, he makes you feel special. Pay close attention to every little detail come to you from time to time, asking you, is everything, would you like some water? Would you like? I mean, I've had very few people that I come to contact with that would host you so graciously as John and Rosemary. And the other thing I like about John, nothing he owns, he really owning for his own benefit. Whether it's his home, his mother's vineyard, his boat. Most of us here have been on his boat. And he paid close attention to everyone, treat everyone as if you were John can have 20 guests, and he would treat everyone as if you were the only one. And that is, I think that's something that I will always remember him by.
Yeah, Frank.
I'd just like to share something real quick. For the day I walked in this church, almost 9 years plus ago, John came up to me and took me under his wing. We shared the same type of cancer. He became a mentor to me. And last spring, when we did our cleanup, came to the garden, and he said, Frank, how can I help you? So I'm gonna turn over a little bit of this garden. Within an hour, he turned over all 4 garden beds. Didn't break a sweat.
Bushin. No, sorry. I know. I was looking at Bushin right before. So.
All Indian people don't look like this. Just to share about John, I remember when I first came to the church here with my wife. I came alone first to Wednesday night, and John was one of the few people that would join Wednesday night classes. And I got to, kind of just observe him. And then I remember Sunday, this is John's thing, whenever he sees someone new, he would just go up to them and say, "Hi, I'm John." And then he would ask you about yourself and where you live and is your first time visiting. And I would say he's one of the very few people that I can count that did that, actively. And made sure, like, sometimes I would feel afraid to go someone new, but John never was afraid. He just wanted to go and introduce himself, make him feel welcome. Well, I think one of my memories was when we were celebrating Bhushan and Salome, we were just sitting down on the same table as him. And he was just telling us about the story of his grandfather, and we were just talking about arranged marriages, like just a whole lot of topics. And ironically, that was also the Sunday that we were planning to have dinner with John and Rosemary, and we were just saying like, yeah, we just had a baby, so let's plan something soon. Unfortunately, I felt like, I missed the opportunity, and that's something that I absolutely, it saddens me a lot that I didn't take on that opportunity earlier. Whether it was because of the kids and stuff, but it also makes me realize that not to sit on opportunity too long, because you never know what would happen, and it could be either way, right? It could be either me. So just to say, one other conversation I could clearly recall is when my son was playing at the playground outside, and John shared a story how him and some of the church members worked together to put that playground together. And I was like, wow, at the time I bet he didn't know that people you don't even know their kids will be playing, and that's something that I'm very sure he's very proud of, to see his work years ago come in even now to give, joy to little kids in his labor years. So all that to say, I'll definitely be praying for Rosemary, and I know it's not easy. I know that they just celebrated the anniversary together. So thank you.
All right, well, John sat behind me for almost 39 years, so, he's my brother. I want to share with the boys, one of the verses we had in common was Philippians 4:13. And so when he was going through with cancer, I would send him encouragement cards, and one day he came in and he said, I think I'm gonna go into business for myself and, branch out. And that verse spoke to me. And who knows, you know what, we need to in life take some chances, because one of the things Dale's always talked about is perfect love driving out fear. And that if you know God, you don't fear doing what you need to do. And so he started Auto Case, and he, started on his own. And but I'm like, so I wanted to remind you guys to, 4:13. I can do all things through God who strengthens me. So lean heavily on God now. But he'll get you through this. And remember, I'll think 39 years. And the last memory I have is giving him a great big hug at Kate's play. So, it's the memories of the love we shared for a long period of time. And that God will get us through this. It's the strength we can do.
Claudia.
I've known, excuse me, I've probably known him the longest in this movie. He adopted me when I was very young and sort of lost, meaning I was, my family was up in Guilford, Connecticut. I was living on 14th Street in Manhattan. Excuse me. And dating Craig. This goes back a long time. And so maybe over 40 years. And I basically for a long time didn't have a place to live. I was kind of drifting from couch to couch. And not wanting to go home for other reasons. And I had one of your bedrooms before you had your bedrooms. And to the point where John named it Claudia's room. Oh, and we had many, but I was sort of lost. He and Rosemary made me a family that I didn't have. And Rosemary's the sister I wish I had. And he was the brother I wish I had. And they just, they made it possible for me to be me. And I'll never forget his wisdom. We had talks where Rosemary would need to go somewhere and I would like get ready to go and he's like, you don't have to leave because she leaves. I'm like, yeah, you know, it was just a welcoming environment that I needed at the time and always needed. And I learned how to be a better person through the dad and the mom.
I don't think there's anyone, or there's many fewer people in this room who have not been a recipient of John's profound generosity. And also you completely understand his facing of fear and his and how facing fear was like one of his taglines, and we could all do it. You could do it. He talks of the story about he literally heard, "Be not afraid." And those are two things that are so Christ-like, Buddha-like, Creator-like, God-like to me for John. But maybe one of the better story, or another story is, so during one of my midlife crises, I've had several, but the one I had about 3, 4, or 5 years ago when during COVID, I decided the planet was falling apart and I needed to get out of my job and do something with the earth, something with sustainability or the environment or conservation. And the first person I spoke to was John. And he was so good at taking this messy kind of somewhat frenetic, but very well-meaning person and pulling me into a place of reality and pulling me into a place of strategy, as you had mentioned before. And it allowed me to stay away from my old job for 9 months and actually make ends meet. But, you know, then again, I had to relook at reality. I wound up going back to my old profession, but it gave me a springboard that I wouldn't have had. And so he helped me create this little space and then also allowed me to come back to the space where I needed to come. So one of the things that I would ask Rosemary, and I want to ask these two beautiful young men in front of me, is your dad left a legacy. And what I want to know, and I'm going to speak for all of us, what we want to know is how we can best actively, as Scott spoke to us last week, sustain that legacy. So think of ways that we can, in action, in generosity and in facing fear, sustain his legacy. And if you can think of something, I want to know, and I want to do whatever I can to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me go again. I'm sorry. I just want to say something funny. Start out with saying something funny, and I'm gonna segue into something serious. If you ever been to, well, at least one thing I've noticed at John Rosemary's, they call it do you remember what they call it?
Daydream.
They call it Daydream. It's a nice name. And if you have been to Daydream, one thing I noticed wherever I looked, acorns.
Mhm.
Those people love acorns. I was amazed by, they're all over the place. That said, just something I've been thinking about to share with you guys is that to me, I see some kind of irony in all this. Here, John Williams was such a cancer survivor and such a champion, in my opinion, anyways. And he was such obviously a mentor and generosity to a lot of people in this room. And I always thought of John as such a positive, transcendent person. So in that sense, it's hard for you to understand why he did what he did. A little difficult. I've been thinking about that. Yeah.
Yes, Julie.
One of the things that, it's not easy for me to share like this, but, you know, he was, because we're in the same industry that he was in, the civil engineers, he worked for a company called HDR for many years. And he had a meteoric rise at HDR, that's not a small company, that's not a small accomplishment. What is surprising is how down to earth he actually was. Despite what was really a very successful career. And of course, he launched into another successful venture, another venture that really had a great opportunity. But he was a down-to-earth guy and when you see people reflect on his life that have association with him and his work, they all talk about how much he mentored them. And, you know, so I don't want us to miss that about John, just that he was extremely successful. And you know, I think Valerie was saying the great planner. We must drop by him. And he was very inventive, you know, doing things ahead of time in his industry, even with HDR. I just wanted to bring that, please.
Love that. Thank you.
Cynthia,
Yeah, sorry.
that's okay. I can speak to a perspective that most of you can't because as sharing being a part of the eldership leadership. So we meet every Monday morning on Zoom and reflect on how the church is doing, how individuals are managing, what we need to do to be supportive, encouraging, spiritual guides, and then planning. And there was just a lot of intimacy that goes on in those meetings. It's very prayerful, very thoughtful. And John was at the heart of that. And he so often spoke with such pride for many people in this room that he cared so much about, and he prayed for, and he often spoke so with such pride about his sons and what they meant to him and how he saw their maturity and how satisfying that was in his life. So I think those of us in those meetings feel privileged to have been a part of his life in a way that was very intimate.
For those who've walked in, sorry, we're sharing memories or stories of how we have known or experienced God through John. One of the things that stuck out to me this week as I made phone calls with many of you and many others who aren't here at this moment was how many people told me John was the first person that I met when I stepped into the church. I heard that over and over and over. And I thought about that, and I thought about how every time John spoke, whether that was preaching or doing a call to worship, he was so intentional about connecting with people throughout the audience, calling us by name, pulling us together. And he had such a gift, I think, for reminding all of us that we belong to each other, that we belong to God, that no matter how we showed up, we were welcomed. And I am so grateful for that. And in just my little under 2 years here, the number of people we've had who stepped into church for the first time after their own traumas or things, talking about the second they walked in, John letting them know that they could be here and that this place was for them, and how healing that was to hear that. So I think that's how I feel like I've seen in all the ways all of you have said God reflected in John. But that's when I think about a lot. It's just that his ability to make us all feel like we belong, because we do. Yeah, Patty.
Sat right behind John and Rosemary, and I've never seen two people so in love. You know, they're always holding hands, they were, you know, one's arms around the other, you know. That's what warmed my heart, a beautiful couple.
Absolutely.
I just want to say, I don't want to get into it, but I'm just gonna say that I haven't been coming to church for a while. And I got so many cards, not one, not two, goes beyond that, from John and Rosemary. And sometimes it was on a yellow encouragement card, sometimes it was on a card from the store, or even a piece of paper. And they were just really, said a lot of really neat things to be Rosemary and John. They both made individual efforts to talk to me by writing and collective. They were very nice, very, very nice.
Yeah.
So he wrote me a letter of reference when I went to graduate school, because he came to my financial peace class, and I want to share with you guys the part of the story. So John and Rosemary came just to make sure, you know, this class is good for our church, and part of it was motivated for how can we save more money so we can give back. But they also had some financial goals. And the funniest story is I have couples where the person who usually manages the money gets to write the budget. And then they hand it over to the other person who gets to now write the budget. And I was saying, now you have to shut up because you already said what you had to say. And then, so that one writes it. And then I say, now you go home and fight over it. And so the next week, Rosemary goes, we did. But she said, he worried about what kind of cat food we had. And I was like, but the details. John was into the details, but it was hysterical. So, and I love that because it kind of showed that it was really important to them to give back.
Yeah.
And learning how to effectively use the wealth they were gaining for more than just their own good. So, but it was hysterical because I wanted to be a fly on the wall, Rosemary. But it was adorable because that's healthy. And so. Peter?
So, but as Julie was speaking, my memory with John and Rosemary was the weekend we spent, when they invited us to their home in Martha's Vineyard. And one morning, Rosemary wake up and she was supposed to go, I think they call that treasure hunt, where there was a thing that was placed on different part of the island.
Geocache.
Oh, and we spent about 4 hours, John driving Rosemary's around, and Rosemary like a little girl. You see the kids when we have in Easter time, and that was like Rosemary was like going crazy for whole morning, and we were laughing at John like, oh, we're now. So it was a funny time, funny 1 hour, about 4 hours watching two adults, like little kids happy in the kid's store.
That. Yes.
I remember when my son had cancer, he was there for my son. He was a father, he was everything. He was going to school in North Carolina, and he said to him, don't worry about taking the bus, girl. I have like this going to take the place. And every time that he going down, he buy the flight before he even go. He buy the ticket and he went down. I remember the last time he was down there and they call us for, he take sick and was down and they call us and say we have to come down for him. Me and my daughter book a flight and we go down. We was going down who was at the airport, he called us and said, Mommy, I'm going up. I said, where you going? He said, John, buy a ticket for me to come up. I said, oh my God. I said, really? So we asked them at the airport if we can get back the flight to come back up because I was waiting on the one that he was coming up on to go down by it. So they say, yeah, we can, and then give we another thing and we come up. And John was there for my son with cancer right through his side. He Rosemary, Debbie and Paul, they was there for my son, and I missed John so much. Yes. He was there for my son, even when he's lost, when he died. General Rosemary was there. He kept my son, he kept we in line with my son. Every trip, my son, everything, he was there for my son. And I must say, he's a good man. And I miss him.
There's no greater reflection of God in one another than when we're there with each other, just like Jesus is always with us. Time for one more. Okay.
When you hear what I'm saying, I think that's not a week to know that, this would be the last one, but I wanted to pick up on what you said, and mine is a perfect example of God loving all of his children. And you said he was like a father to your son, but I have to tell all of them, and I'm sure you know it came up before. Every time I see your parents, I always ask, how's Brian? What's Brian up to? How's Devin? What's Devin up to? I know all the things. Maybe some things you don't want me to know, relationships, things which I've never did. But what you should know is how much they love you. And even at this last visit, because I said, I know you went to see Devin in September. How was that? They talked about how wonderful it was and how it was better to see you at that time of year when they actually had more time with you. Because, the other times that they visited, I was in February, so it's a busy time, right? So, right, yeah. Right, and they don't, if you're this year, they don't get to spend as much time with you. So, and John said, this is where Devin needs to be. He is happy there. He has found himself there, he's far and we miss him. We understand. And about you, Brian, your father talked about how immersed you are in the community, that he can see you in political office as a mayor. He said, Brian is just, and he's always been helpful to us and so forth. So the way that he spoke about both of you, he's like, they are both such good men. The pride that he had every time he spoke about both of you. I'm sure you know that, and I'm sure he expressed his love to you, but I want you to know that I heard it and I want to deliver it to you in this moment. You all your love.
Brian and Devin and Rosemary online, we love y'all, and we're really happy to have y'all here with us today. And also as a reminder for all of us, let's be aware that we all may need different amounts of space today. And so I know we're super excited to see Brian and Devin, and they did not ask me to say this, I'm just saying this. Let's also not overwhelm them. So if they need space, let's give them space too. But we're really glad y'all are. We are so sorry for your loss, and we are grieving with you. And Rosemary, we love you.
Love you, Rosemary. Love you, Rosemary.
Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
We love you, Rosemary.
We're going to end with a meditation and revelations about a day when there will be no more mourning. So I just want to invite you, we're going to take a moment of silence just to breathe. Feel free to close your eyes, and I'm just going to read this scripture over us.
Chapter verse.
Chapter 21, verse 1.
Okay.
Lord, we welcome you in this space with us today. May we feel your presence. And we welcome all of the emotions that we are carrying and all the things that we are feeling, Lord, knowing that you are there with us, experiencing those things with us, God. May we hear your words for us today. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "See, the home of God is among mortals. God will dwell with them. They will be God's people, and God, God's self, will be with them. God will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more. For the first things have passed away." And the one who is seated on the throne said, "See, I am making all things new." Also, he said, "Write this, for these words are trustworthy and true." Then he said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty, I will give water as a gift from the spring of the water of life. Those who conquer will inherit these things, and I will be their God, and they will be my children." Amen. Art, will you close us out with our prayer today?
Okay. Please pray with me.